Why do avoidants get into a new relationship right after leaving the relationship with you? And why is that not as bad as you think? I need you guys to do two quick things for me. I need you to follow me on Instagram and YouTube under Geneva's Only account, same handle as I have here. It's really important because TikTok is probably going to get banned at some point in America, like within the next 6 months. If that does happen, you guys need to know where you can find me. And I'm going to start putting a lot more work into putting like more original stuff on YouTube and Instagram that you can't find here, especially more long form stuff on YouTube. So please go follow me on those two places because I really don't want to lose you guys if this gets banned. So I want you to think about avoidance as if they were alcoholics. Okay, we'll just use that as an example. Avoidants are kind of addicted to dopamine, and alcoholics are addicted to alcohol, right? So when you're an alcoholic, your coping mechanism for dealing with stress or for dealing with issues in your life is to drink. And even though the drinking is actually causing more problems, it's the only way that you know how to cope, and it's temporarily going to make you feel better. Because you're in your alcoholism, you have never learned any other tools for coping. So this is the only way that you know how to cope. So the life cycle of an alcoholic is the alcoholic starts drinking because, maybe they want to fit in or whatever. They want to escape a lot of the problems that they might have going on in their life. So they start drinking and it feels really good. And it's a relief, and it's releasing, so many feelings of stress and pain and grief. And all that stuff is being suppressed by the alcohol. So they're able to push down all that trauma, all that pain, all that grief, and just drink to feel better. And when that stuff tries to rise to the surface again, or when something else in their life happens that stresses them out, they push it down by drinking. And drinking then starts causing more pain and more grief and more shame, and so they have to start drinking more to keep suppressing it. This is kind of the way that avoidants operate with dopamine seeking. Because avoidants struggle to actually connect on a deeper level with people because they built this wall between themselves and others to protect them, they are constantly seeking these superficial dopamine type relationships. And when that relationship tries to get to a more committed or intimate level, they really, really struggle, and they don't know how to build on any kind of foundation or reach new heights of the relationship because they never learned how. Think about an avoidant from childhood, right? They had all this fear and all this pain and all this dismissal from their caretakers in childhood. So what they started doing is they started suppressing that and teaching themselves coping mechanisms to deal with that pain. So maybe when their parents were dismissing them or rejecting them, not attuning to their needs, they would go outside and they would, go skateboard all night, or some kind of thrill seeking, dopamine seeking activity that would make them feel better to keep all that pain suppressed. So they go through their life continuing to do that. So their teenage years, they're suppressing all that pain, and then they get into their adult years and they're still suppressing everything that they feel. So any external circumstance that happens to them that is painful, they just suppress it by seeking dopamine. And depending on each avoidant individual, it's going to vary on what sources of dopamine they use to feel better. So for some avoidants, it might be, other people. So it might be cheating, getting on dating apps, using external validation to suppress how they feel. For other avoidants, it might be gambling. For other avoidants, it might be drugs and alcohol. For other avoidants, it might be their hobbies. It might be all these things in one, but they are constantly looking for ways to suppress the way that they feel. And this will start occurring in your relationship with them. So when the relationship starts to build and the intimacy starts to build and their partner is, bidding for more validation, more connectedness, more intimacy, the avoidant then goes to their normal factory settings of needing to seek dopamine to feel better. You have to understand that just like an alcoholic, they have never learned any other tools to deal with their stress. All they know how to do is suppress it and then seek dopamine to find some relief. They do not know any other way of feeling better or getting relief. They just have never learned that. So this is all they know. So they start doing this in their relationship with you. You can probably think back to the relationship and think about all the ways that the avoidant in your life was starting to try to seek dopamine, whether that was overworking themselves, whether that was, constantly engaging in their hobbies to distract themselves, or, different types of substances, or cheating, or whatever it might have been. The problem becomes that the avoidant can't really keep this up for too long, because the more that they're engaging in other things in the relationship, the more that it's upsetting you. And so you start getting really activated because your partner is not really connected and they are pulling themselves away from the relationship. This starts building a lot of shame inside the avoidant. And so now they have even more that they have to suppress. So now it's not just like normal life stress that they're suppressing. Now it's like all these bids from you for validation and all the upset that you feel because they're not an active participant in the relationship. So now their stress load is double, triple, quadruple, and it's really hard to suppress things at that level. And so they're trying to grasp at straws, trying to find anything they can, any sources of dopamine to keep suppressing it. But at a certain point, it starts rising and rising and rising until it just explodes because they've lost they can't figure out how to suppress it anymore. It has just risen to the surface. They panic, they explode, and that is when they leave the relationship. But all that shit they've been suppressing doesn't just go away just because they've left the relationship. It's still there. And now they have all this pain and grief and fear from leaving the relationship with you. And they have a bunch of shame because they know the way that they did it was shitty and really, really hurt you. So now they really have to start suppressing. Avoidance mind, they feel like, okay, I cut that tie with them, so that's going to allow me a little bit more room to suppress. They couldn't keep suppressing in the relationship with you because there was too much coming at them that they would have to suppress. So they cut that tie, right? Okay, I have a little bit of room left to suppress. So they suppress everything from the relationship, and then they look for a major source of dopamine. So for a lot of them, it's going to be getting into a new relationship really quickly. It'd be like sleeping with a bunch of people. They have to seek new sources of dopamine all the time to feel better. So people get so hurt when they see that the avoidant has gotten into a new relationship. But you have to remember, it's not about the new person. It's not about you. It is about the avoidant's shitty ways of coping. They do not know how to cope. They will go through the same cycle in this relationship where they are using this person to help them suppress all the pain, but that will stop working after a while because this new person will want to start connecting with them on a deeper level. So the same thing is going to happen where it builds, and explodes. And when it explodes in this new relationship is when you often see the avoidant trying to get back with you, because now they, again, are trying to seek some source of dopamine. And look, maybe I can go try my ex. I haven't seen them in a while, haven't talked to them in a while. They are a sense of comfort and familiarity. They might try to come back to you for friendship or friends with benefits, or even begging to get back in the relationship because they are constantly trying to find ways to cope with how they're feeling. Or if they do come back, they're going to go through the same cycle. Suppress, 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 suppress until it explodes.